But the NPP caucus there is now opposing a motion by Boko Central MP Mahama Ayariga that's seeking for Parliament to suspend payment of admission fees by tertiary students. The NPP's Chief Whip Frank Anodompre and leader Seiche Mensah-Bonsu say the motion is incompetent and flawed. Let's go live now to Parliament to get more on this.
Admission fee is only one component of the academic facility user fees, which he, the mover of the motion, read a tall list to say that the president should only remove the admission fee, which is minuscule in terms of the fees total. He said 17. He's talking only one. He even brought in SRC news and Luke's news. Meanwhile, he has brought SRC people here. Mr. Speaker, SRC is the students that decide on the SRC news. It's the students that decide on the SRC news. Now we are saying that after the students have decided on SRC news, the president is being requested not to approve the SRC news. The president has no power when this house has decided. The president of the republic has no power when this house has decided by substituting the legislation to approve the fees. This motion, Mr. Speaker, is incompetent on the face and the value of everything. Where does the president come in? How are we going to resolve to request the president when the power is in this house? When the power is in this house, bring a motion of rescission, and 2/10 members of this house will support it if it's appropriately done. This is the Speaker, I beg to move that it should not be allowed, it should not be entertained, and it's an insult to this house. Thank you.
I see there are many more people who want to contribute, but you limited the number to 4 on each side. And I have so many of them. And you want more numbers for the preliminary before you go to the substantive.
Mr. Speaker, I thought you said this is preliminary issue before we go to the substantive motion.
Yes. So I'm asking, you want that to be different from the 4 each? And how many numbers? I have time for you.
Mr. Speaker, we've agreed on 3-3 on the preliminary issue.
Wait, let me
What we are discussing.
2 more. Yes, Honorable John Jinapo.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, as a second termer in this Parliament, I have never in my life, Mr. Speaker, seen such a competent motion like this very one. Mr. Speaker, this is the most competent motion I've ever seen in my life. Yes. It's not just competent. It is not just competent. It is relevant in contemporary Ghanaian economics as far as tertiary education is concerned. Mr. Speaker, my friend and senior colleague, the Honorable Matthew Bokum Prepe, who I shall be engaging in due course, stated that we should rather come on a motion of rescission. That is a completely different tangent, Mr. Speaker. Sure. We are not debating the issue of fees and charges. All the venerable, intelligent, learned Mahama Ayariga is asking of. Mr. Speaker, it's simple. That this house, as a sign of magnanimity, as a sign of sympathy, and as a sign of empathy, and a sign of concern, should just make a request to His Excellency the President that given the suffering and the untold hardship and the impoverishment of the Ghanaian students, that His Excellency the President should consider suspending just suspending the issue of these fees. Mr. Speaker, if this is not a competent motion, then which other motion is competent? Mr. Speaker, I refer to what the Minister of Finance presented to us in respect of an update on the COVID situation. Mr. Speaker, this very House approved an amount of 1.2 billion from the Stabilization Fund, dollar equivalent of about 219 million cedis. In addition to that, Mr. Speaker, this House took a decision that the Bank of Ghana should suspend payment of interest amounting to 1.2 billion, that the World Bank should be approached for an amount of 1.7 billion, that the IMF should be approached for an amount of 3 billion, and a reduction of GMPC's net and carried interest from 30% to 15%. Mr. Speaker, the President has had cause to announce the suspension of payment of water, suspension of payment of electricity. And so if this House decides that we want to implore on the President to equally suspend the payment of fees, why should this even bring contention? Mr. Speaker, with these few words, and seeing my senior colleague, Honorable Seche Mensah-Bonsu, nodding his head, I am confident and certain that this motion is the most competent motion in the whole world.
Yes, Honorable Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, the Honorable Bujinapo is implored seriously not to bear false witness. John Bujinapo, not to bear false witness against his neighbor. He knows that is very, very unchristian. Yes, because he knows that is very, very unchristian and very, very uncharitable.
Honorable Majority Leader,
can you do what is needful?
Honorable Majority Leader, were you nodding your head?
Mr. Speaker, I was not. Mr. Speaker, I was not. And indeed, I have not, I had not, I will not.
The Deputy Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I thank you for Mr. Speaker, I thank you for the opportunity to add my voice on the preliminary objection raised in respect of this motion before this House. Mr. Speaker, Order 54A talks about, Mr. Speaker, with your leave, let me quote. The right to move a motion under this order is subject to the following conditions. The matter proposed for discussion must relate to a genuine emergency calling for immediate and urgent consideration. Mr. Speaker, I am inviting you to hold, in accord with the earlier call by my colleague, that this motion is incompetent, it is not properly before this House. The matter in issue as it relates is a matter that cannot be enforced by Mr. President. Mr. Speaker, and I will explain. The decision to apply fees and charges is not an executive decision. It's a decision backed by legislation. When my respected colleague,
Honorable Majority Chief Whip, the preliminary objection was not on procedural. It was substantive. Now you are adding procedural No.
Mr. Speaker, if perhaps you can consider us as ex-cathedral position.
Honorable, you are entitled. You are entitled so to do. But I just want to get you right so that we know that the objections you are raising is on both procedural and substantive.
Mr. Speaker, both on procedure and on the substance of the preliminary objection as raised. Mr. Speaker, I am further fortifying the position by referring to the Order 54A. That is why I decided to rely heavily.
I admitted the motion, and I considered all those orders before I admitted the motion. And so on issue of procedure, you are entitled to disagree with me. That I have no problem. But I'm just drawing your attention to it. I see the Honorable former Minister for Interior, Honorable Ambrose Dere, itching to contribute. So just a minute, let me listen to him.
Right, Honorable Speaker. This motion refers to admission fees. And Mr. Speaker, admission fees apply to new entrants only. Admission fees apply to new entrants only. Now, the motion says, Mr. Speaker, the motion says that also introducing continuing students. Mr. Speaker, let's try. We want a motion or resolution from here that will make an impact. And therefore, we should issue a resolution which would have weight. But this, number one, admission fee applies to only new entrants. Secondly, you are saying by the motion that it should be part of the relief program. Now, even under Order 50, is it a ministerial responsibility, an administrative responsibility? Why are you going to presidency? And if there's a program that has been brought here and approved by Parliament, is there still a gap? What is the impact on the budgetary situation, all that? Mr. Speaker, I think that this motion is too important to have been moved in such a vague manner. It becomes difficult for this House, representing our people, this august House, to come out with a resolution that would, not amount to anything. So yes, the intention might be good. And I have no difficulty with any motion we move here. But what do we intend to achieve? There must be precision. And Mr. Speaker, you are a speaker of so many years in this House. We cannot pass resolutions that are not worth the paper on which we put it. And if you look at this, there's so many unknowns that it becomes a problem. So, Mr. Speaker, I believe there's good intention. Can we at least ask that this matter be done in a manner that makes it easier for us to interrogate the issues better, in which case we think that as it is, we cannot deal with it effectively. You are asking for admission fees which don't apply to continuing students. The students here know they don't pay admission fees. Mr. Speaker, and if we do it properly, we will then be able to tell whether under the government program there is provision for this to be taken off the students. But once we are bringing only admission fee, we are constrained. If the president has a program that has a way of settling it without COVID relief, is it not possible? Mr. Speaker, I think that this motion deserves better detail
a better attention by this House. Let's not make it the usual two-sided argument. If there is a good intention, let us give adequate detail and deal with it judicially, effectively. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Actually, Honourable Minister, I thought you were raising on a point of order, but you've taken your bite. And I decided to listen to you because you were raising some very important issues on the substance, not on procedure. But I'll now listen to the Honourable Deputy Majority Leader. Yes, you may continue.
So, Mr. Speaker, if I may remind my colleagues of the terms of this motion, and at the risk of being repetitive, I would want to read the motion paper, the motion, the content as it is one more time to guide the basis upon which this motion is incompetent. That this House resolves to request the President of the Republic of Ghana to take urgent steps to suspend the payment of admission fees by new entrants into public tertiary education institutions and continuing students of those institutions for the 2021 academic year as part of national COVID-19 relief programs being implemented by government. Mr. Speaker, the invitation that a resolution from this House will make would be for the President to suspend the payment of admission fees and payment of fees for continuing students. But, Mr. Speaker, question. When this House has passed a law, which law is being implemented, can we, by an executive fiat, direct that the executive should suspend the implementation of same? Honorable John Jinapo, in his argument, Mr. Speaker, yes, Mr. Speaker, with all due respect, this is a legal argument. Patience. This is debate. Patience and listen. So jot down your point. Mr. Speaker, my colleague John Jinapo, in his submission, referred to a Bank of Ghana situation where the government directed that certain interests, those were not allies. Those policies, those decisions by Bank of Ghana are not one that would need to come to Parliament. In this case, what our colleague is inviting us to do is to invite the President of the Republic to suspend a law. What we are saying is that, no, that cannot be done. That cannot be done in any way, Mr. Speaker, because the law subsists. You cannot suspend its implementation. If for nothing at all, Mr. Speaker, a motion must come properly before this House for this House to rescind that LI and the provisions thereof so that the very relief he is seeking could be met. In any event, Mr. Speaker, the government is at its formative stage. We know that this government has implemented a lot of COVID relief policies, programs. We have had free water. Government, because it's not backed by LI, it's not an LI that determines water tariff. Please. Now, Mr. Speaker, we have had support to the private sector, which is within the ambit of the government. NBSSI is supporting the private sector. NEIP, MASROC, government has introduced several relief support programs, including school feeding to private schools. And Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Deputy Majority Leader.
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
One of your men is up on his feet. Maybe he has a point of order to raise.
Rightly so, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, may I respectfully ask you to refer to Article 297C, because these are legal issues that has fallen this House. Mr. Speaker, with your kind permission, in respect of LI 297C of the Constitution, on implied power, where a power is given to a person or authority to do or enforce the doing of an act or a thing, all such powers shall be deemed to be also given as are necessary to enable that power or authority to do or enforce the doing of that thing. Mr. Speaker, this is a legislative instrument which was approved by this House. The processes of annulling an airline are well laid out under Article 11.7 of the Constitution. Mr. Speaker, all public universities are set out under statutes. There are statutes, there are regulations, which are all determined under the Constitution. So the motion before us, which my colleague and good friend is asking us to do, culminates from an airline which is properly so-called, which the universities or public universities are using. Question is, has the president got the power to suspend...
Honourable Member, I thought you were going to raise a point of order.
Under 297C, Mr. Speaker.
Point of order.
Right.
That cannot be a point of order. You are making a substantive submissions for the consideration of the House. Yes, Honourable Deputy Majority Leader, you may conclude.
Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, so all that the mover of the motion is saying is that we should invite the president to do what by law he cannot do. Not too long ago, Mr. Speaker, no less a person than the leader of minority leader, Honorable Haruna Idrisu, questioning the conduct of the president in respect of Presidential Transition Act. He was questioning certain appointments. It means that they are on red alert in respect of the laws of this country. How then do you invite the same president to absorb fees, to suspend the payment, to instruct the universities not to charge?
So those are live visuals coming to you from Parliament, where they are debating a motion forwarded by the Boko Central Member of Parliament, Mahama Ayariga, who is seeking a waiver of admission fees for this year. As you heard, the argument are still ongoing. We'll bring you more in our subsequent bulletins.